This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This podcast, and as I just talked about, I am going to be looking at mankeeping. And what is mankeeping, you might ask? Well, they're going to tell us. And there's actually a report on this, and I'm going to read that as well. It's relatively short. The article itself is pretty short, and the report about mankeeping is pretty short too. So I can cover both of them and still get a decent amount of talking about what's going on here, all done at the same time. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this, because I don't really have a lot of lead into this other than like we're gonna read both of these articles and discuss. And there's a lot to discuss here, and I'm glad they're short articles, because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time reading to talk about this topic. Mankeeping is why women are done with dating. Researchers at Stanford have finally given a name to something many women have been dealing with for years. It's called mankeeping, and it's helping explain why so many women are stepping away from dating altogether. Now, what is mankeeping, you might ask? Mankeeping describes the emotional labor women end up doing in heterosexual relationships. Emotional labor. Emotional labor. That's fucking rich. Sorry. Okay. It goes beyond remembering birthdays or coordinating social plans. It means being your partner's one-man support system, managing his stress, interpreting his moods, holding his hand through feelings he won't share with anyone else. All of it unpaid, unacknowledged, and often unreciprocated. God, does that sound fucking familiar? Sorry. Let's take a brief second to step over and look at the Stanford article about this and dig a little deeper into mankeeping. The structural burden of men's declining social networks. I had to step away from the other article because Vice is a piss poor excuse for news reporting or even commentary. The way it's written is shitty and infuriating. But this actually, I like the Stanford article because it actually has some bones to it. So let's look at this right quick and give me a break from that other dumb cunt. Sorry. The structural burden of men's declining social networks. Someone who wraps their arms around you. It's like forming a supportive bond. You can listen to each other. You can vent to each other, says Vivek, a 35-year-old South Asian American man, when asked what friendship is. Is there someone you have that with? Asked the interviewer. I definitely have a lot of acquaintances, not as many friends now, he admits. Many men have stories like Vivek's, based on data published by the Survey Center on American Life and other census representative data. Men's social network decline, that is, a decrease in their close social connections, is happening at a faster rate than women's throughout many globalized economies. Such increasing patterns of gendered isolation may have consequences for men's social and emotional development, but also for the autonomy of women, according to a recent talk presented to the Clayman Institute Faculty Research Fellows by postdoctoral fellow Angelica Puzio-Ferrara. Ferrara presented these ideas as part of her forthcoming book project, Men Without Men. In the U.S., about 1 in 5 men claim they have no close friends, Ferrara states, mentioning data from various large survey research institutes around the country. In comparison to women's social networks, men's social networks in the U.S. and UK tend to be thinner in depth, less frequent in emotional disclosure, and more rarely relied on for support. Ferrara continued to summarize the developmental and social science of close relationships, which identifies friendships as the arena where critical social and emotional skill sets, such as listening, empathy, and reciprocity, are nurtured. Men's struggles with friendships. In interviews with adult men in the United States and United Kingdom, Ferrara discovered that many men struggle with forming and maintaining deep, meaningful friendships, which causes some men to miss out on opportunities essential for sustaining their emotional development. In her work suggests that men's struggles are rooted in restrictive ideas about manhood. For example, Blake, a 34-year-old white British man, described the difficulty that certain types of masculinity pose for forming close relationships. You know, we're all trying to be alpha men, so to be vulnerable and be close to people is hard, said Blake. Because in the world we're in, I feel emotionally repressed and stunted. I can't even get in touch truly with my own feelings. That might be the gayest fucking shit to have ever come out of a British man's mouth. And that's really setting the bar pretty fucking low. Whew. Ferrara, a developmental psychologist by training, stresses the wider developmental scope of male social networks, contending that emotionally thin relationships amongst men are not often the case among boys. Drawing on interviews with adolescent boys from her doctoral work, which have been described elsewhere in the work of psychologist Niobe Way, Ferrara points out that many adolescent boys form meaningful friendships with other boys, but such friendships tend to fade as boys approach the onset of manhood. Summarizing her interviews, Ferrara says that patriarchal masculinity impedes emotionally intimate bonds between men. As a result, men do not flex these competencies such as women, as much as women. As a result, men and women develop a skill differential in social and emotional competencies, which, as Ferrara pointed out, could have consequences at the individual and structural level. Now, there's a lot to get into with this. But the idea that what we've seen throughout the interviews that have been quoted in this are a bunch of 30-something dudes who don't feel like they have strong male friendships. And they blame the need to be masculine and alpha male on that. What the actual fuck? I blame piss poor, soft ass parenting, specifically weak fathers, on what's going on with these younger males who are struggling with friendship and feel like the masculinity is just really giving them a lot of problems. I had a strong masculine father, and all of his friends were also strong masculine dudes. And they played cards, and they drank, and they hunted. And nobody ever questioned that every single one of them was a guy. They were all dudes. There's no competition for who's the most dude of the dudes. There's no struggling with feeling emasculated by each other. Where the fuck does that even come from? Like, how do you even get there where you don't form deep friendships with people because masculinity is somehow a problem? I have a number of friend groups. And we call each other gay, and we make fun of each other, and we talk shit, and we also talk about our family lives and just, like, you know, when my grandmother died or the health problems I'm going through. One buddy is, you know, thinking about divorce. Another one's having, you know, has issues with kids. And it's like, we have conversations about all this stuff, but also we are all fucking Chads. We are all the dude of the group. And we all know it. Like, we go back and forth making fun of each other and one-upping each other and like knocking each other down. Where are these guys getting these like soft fucking relationship, like, masculinity should never be some reason that you, in fact, you should all be trying to outdo one another. Not to be the best, but because fuck you. I'm going to be more masculine than you are. I'm going to call you gay. I'm going to call you a faggot. We are going to constantly build each other up and tear each other down. That's what good, healthy friendships are. And I blame soft fathers for this. I bet you every one of these dudes that complains about how they, the 1 in 5 that have no significant friendships, I would be willing to bet every one of them, their mother emasculated their father. Their mother ran the house. Their mother was the primary person that was responsible for them. And their dad was some oafish, like, new age TV sitcom dad type who went to work, came home, never did anything of substance, never did anything of note, was talked down to by his wife and treated like a dipshit, and never stood up for himself. I would be willing to bet. Young men, especially young boys, need strong male father figures and strong male role models so they understand what masculinity actually is. They understand what male friendships actually are, and then they see and develop those as they go forward. It's instinctive to us. Like, it talks about young boys, adolescents, forming those deep bonds, those deep friendships, and then as they get older, they fade. If you have the right role models, the right father figures, coaching and teaching and showing how those are, I don't think those friendships fade as they get older. But the strong father has largely been removed from society over the last 30 years. And it's a fucking shame. Like, the hangers on, the ones who stuck to it, are usually tend to be more rural or, the ones who are out of touch with the modern society and, shit like that. But, the ones that are deeply religious and rooted in faith and family and, values, and having a society. And I try to show that to my son with the relationships that I have with different friend groups. Sean's gotten to meet my best friend from high school. He's gotten to meet her, his mom, and hear some of the stories about us as kids from her. Like, he's gotten to meet other people that I grew up with and get to know them a little bit as well. He's gotten to talk to and meet some of my current friend groups that I interact with. And like, he sees the way we talk to each other and the way we hang out with each other and the way we interact and see what good friendship is. And it's funny because I see how he interacts with some of his friends, his like close friend group. And I see some reflection between how I and my friends are with each other and how he and his friends are with each other. And I think I think and hope that that's because they see what strong friendship looks like and they emulate that, and they'll continue to do so. But the way society is kind of structured right now, especially where men are involved, it disincentivizes us from being our true natural selves. And so then we get bullshit like this. where how men's loneliness affects women. The correct answer to how does men's loneliness affect women should be it doesn't, and it shouldn't fucking matter. But that's not what's happening. And so now we have to talk about this more in depth. Where do men who struggle with deep same-gender bonds turn to fulfill their needs for intimacy and support? According to Ferrara, many men turn to women, including girlfriends and female friends. Alternatively, some men turn to readily available but thin forms of bonding in places that consolidate male power and openly reproduce misogyny, such as various online communities that constitute what has been termed the manosphere. Fuck these motherfuckers and this openly reproducing misogyny. Get in the fucking manosphere group and make some friends. Talk to people. Those people are people you can connect with. Those are the people who will actually encourage you to have strong male bonds. Don't go to your fucking wife or girlfriend for your emotional needs. I am sorry. Women are wired different. The way they understand and process emotional needs is completely ass backwards from the way we do it. And that's not saying that it's bad. It's the way they're wired, and it's the way they need to process it. And that's not going to work for you if you're a man. You need to get in that fucking manosphere and have these dudes talk to you like a man. Don't go problem dump on your fucking wife or your girlfriend. Jesus, I was dying of this esophagus shit for 4 months before I ever even told my wife that I felt bad at all. The way they process stuff is not conducive to us actually dealing with the things that we have going on. I love my wife. I'll tell her about a quarter of what's going on in my life. Not because she, I'm hiding anything, but because she's not going to process it and understand it and deal with it in a way that is beneficial to me. I can, on the other hand, write an article or, write a message in one of my text groups with some of my friends, the people that I consider my closest friends. I can write a message longer than this fucking article and just completely trauma dump on them, and they will understand 100%. And then we'll all talk about it and make fun of each other and move on. And it's like, I don't need your solutions. I don't need a lecture about how I need to be more open and think about stuff differently and blah, blah, blah. I just need to have everybody be like, dude, that's fucked up. You're gay. And then we move on. That's it. That's the way we're wired. Don't go to your wife or girlfriend with your bullshit. You need to have a strong friend group for that. For the various ways that women help men compensate for stunted social networks, Ferrara labels such forms of labor as mankeeping, by analogy to socialist Carolyn Rosenthal's theory of kinkeeping, or the labor that women do to maintain bonds with their families. This is the labor that women take on to shore up losses in men's social networks and reduce the burden of this isolation on families, on the heterosexual bond itself, on men, said Ferrara, who plans to interview more women for her project. The barriers that men are facing in their relationships have the potential to expand women's labor on men's behalf. Although men's loneliness hurts men, their struggles can become a burden for women as well. Ferrara argues that men's loneliness, a problem thought to be individual, is in fact structural. She identifies mankeeping as an important and overlooked component of patriarchal social structures, in which case recognizing and naming this form of gendered labor may be important for making women's emotional work more visible and hopefully more equal. Emotional work. Man keeping. Because men never have to deal with wild emotional responses to insane bullshit. Men never have to deal with crying for no reason or full-on breakdowns. Men never have to deal with yelling and screaming because forgot to put a toilet lid down, or men never have to deal with this sort of stuff. This is exclusively women, only women. Only women have to deal with this emotional work. That's it. Men never do this. You know, if you did a study and asked men in relationships how much time they spend dealing with their wives' emotional baggage and all of that kind of stuff, they would say not much. Why? Because if their wife ever found out how much they actually deal with it, they would become even more emotional because they would think that they're being a burden. Now, you want to talk about tiptoeing around emotions? Jesus. And I've tried to teach this to my son, do anything and everything you can to make sure that your woman is as emotionally balanced as she can be, and actively try not to do anything that could throw that balance off at any moment ever. Because the second that balance starts to kilter a little bit, you are fucked. You're fucked. But yeah, I mean, it's only women that have to do emotional work. Men will never tell you that they do it. Ever. I would never be honest with anybody about how much time goes into just making sure that the females in my life are not batshit fucking insane. And that's every man in a relationship. And that's, again, poor father figures and role models have led these young dudes to think that they should just trauma dump on their girlfriend or wife. No, don't tell her anything. Ever. Why would you? Don't do it. Don't do it. Let's go back to Vice and finish up that article. Unreciprocated. The root of the issue is tied to what experts are calling the male loneliness epidemic. As more men report having fewer close friendships, romantic partners are expected to pick up the slack. No, they shouldn't be. Men, don't fucking do that. Instead of processing with friends, many men offload everything onto the woman they're dating. She becomes his entire emotional infrastructure. AKA, men are becoming emotionally dependent, whiny little fucking girls. Sorry, that's what you are. Get online and go make fun of some faggot somewhere that made some stupid ass video and see who likes and replies to your comment. That's your new friends group. Start a group chat with them and see where it goes. My best friend group, the people that I talk to the most, it was because I said I would like to start doing a morning show talking about the news and what's going on in the world without having a gay woke tilt to it. Would anybody like to join me? And 2 guys said they would. And one of those guys said, I know somebody else who might be interested in this. And then some other people started watching it. And they got lumped into the group. And now, like, I have met in person the majority of these people, all but two. And we talk and we plan to hang out at different times and see each other for various reasons of dumb shit, just because. And we can talk about anything and everything. And there is not a single female in this group, and I will never, ever, 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 ever let a female in the group. They don't belong. You need male spaces. And the way the internet is, it's fucking insane if you can't find one. Shit, what's your favorite video game? You can find entire communities based on that, and there will be people that you can connect with. Not just like chatter on the internet, on a chat room or something. Do chat rooms still exist? I don't know how that works. Anyway, but like not just commenting on posts and stuff, but like people that you can connect with and learn about and be legitimately friends with. The world got a lot smaller with the internet. And there's no reason to not take advantage of that. If you're a man, find a group. It's not that fucking hard. It's really not. Just grow a fucking pair and get out there. Plenty of women are no longer interested in that dynamic. According to Pew Research, only 38% of single women in the U.S. are currently looking for a relationship. Among single men, that number jumps to 61%. The gap says a lot. Women aren't opting out of love. They're opting out of being someone's therapist with benefits. Men, stop looking for women to fulfill you emotionally. Make friends. That number of men looking for a relationship is because they haven't had strong male role models to show them how strong male friendships work. And so they don't seek out strong male friendships. Instead, they're seeking out companionship. And they think that they need the companionship through a woman. But that's not her purpose. And that's something that you need to understand deeply. I love my wife. I absolutely love her. I adore her. She is beautiful and smart and funny, hardworking, incredible mother. I love my wife. She is not my emotional support. She is not my everything. She is a big part of my life, but she is not meant to be something that I rely on for everything. You need strong male friendships for most of what's going on in life. A woman is not supposed to be that. They are not wired the same way we are. They will not understand what you are going through. And that's fine. They don't need to. You don't need to understand what they're going through. You just need to figure out how to manage their emotions so that they don't get pissed off and try to fucking murder you in your sleep. Right? These are, I think, pretty easy concepts that everybody should get comfortable with, as men and as women. The Guardian calls mankeeping a modern extension of emotional labor, one that turns a partner into a life coach. This isn't about avoiding vulnerability. It's about refusing to carry someone else's emotional weight while getting little to nothing in return. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. Number one, fuck these bitches. If you're not getting anything in return, I would be willing to bet they're getting 2 to 3 times what's being given to them back in return. But they don't acknowledge that because the female mind is one direction. It's all what's being put on me. They don't ever look at what they're putting on the male. Like, ask a woman how much she trauma dumps and causes emotional distress for her husband. And she'll say, oh, very little, almost none. Then ask the man, and he's going to say, whatever she said, I ain't opening up that fucking can of worms because it's all the goddamn time. Right? Some men have started opening up more, which is good, but too often that openness lands on the lap of the person they're sleeping with instead of a friend or a therapist. Vulnerability without boundaries can feel more like a burden than a breakthrough. The fact that it's labels that openness lands in the lap of the person they're sleeping with instead of a friend. If you're in a actual deep, committed, legitimate relationship with somebody, it's not just the person you're sleeping with, right? In fact, it shouldn't be that at all. Like that shouldn't be what makes that a relationship. It's like the way the relationships are structured in modern society is so ass backwards and fucked up and stupid. Anyway, what women want isn't complicated. They want shared effort, mutual support, emotional responsibility that doesn't get passed off like a group project. When that doesn't happen, they're choosing solitude over stress, and they're not apologizing for it. Some women are called bitter for stepping back from dating. Others are labeled cold. What they're really doing is protecting their capacity. The choice to stay single rarely comes from defeat. It comes from knowing exactly how much energy they have left to give. Until that imbalance shifts, more women will keep walking away. Being alone is easier than managing someone else's emotions. The choice to stay single rarely comes from defeat. It comes from knowing exactly how much energy they have left to give. Put that on the back of they want shared effort, mutual support. And when that doesn't happen, they're choosing solitude over stress. There is a 100% chance that there is mutual support. And they don't acknowledge just how much they contribute to the one side of that equation. They only see the other side. And that's fine. They're not wired that way. They don't see it. And they never will. They never will. It comes from knowing exactly how much energy they have left to give. Men don't. We think we are perpetual motion machines, that we will never run out of energy, that we can keep going and going and going. We're the fucking Energizer Bunny. I am down 50 pounds, borderline on my fucking deathbed, not really. I will keep going and going and going. I will live out of fucking spite if nothing else. Like I said, I didn't tell my wife that there was even anything wrong with me for 5 months, 4 or 5 months. And even since then, I have attempted to downplay it and not let her know the extent of how much is going on. I don't tell my kids. I don't tell anybody. I tell my friends, like, when it's really bad. And otherwise, like, men aren't going to just give up because they feel like they're getting emotionally overburdened, because they think they just have more energy to give. Like, all right, I'm running on E, but there's reserves. Surely I can pull through this. And that's why they're then in return trauma dumping and, putting this emotional baggage on women that they shouldn't be. They should be relying on male friend groups for. But they think, all right, it's like, I've been dealing with all of this shit. She can take a little bit, and then like that'll give me, a little more energy to keep dealing with this, and we can move forward together. And then women only see the one side of it, and then they shut down. So you need strong male friend groups, and there's no reason not to find them. And if you don't have a strong male friend group, just fucking send me a DM. It's not that hard. At jcamp1521. DMs are open. Shoot me a message, and you can trauma dump on me, and we can talk, and I'll introduce you to some other people that have similar interests, and we can all be friends. And then I can meet you too. And then we can, call each other faggots and get to know each other for real. Make a fucking friend. There's no excuse. Just do it. It's a Nike slogan. This has become a Nike ad. Just fucking do it. Grow a pair and make some friends. They're not that hard to come by. I promise you. I've made so many on accident, I can't even fucking count all of them. And that's not counting the people that, like, my real friend, like my real closest friends, the ones that I grew up with, that went to high school and college with. Like, we talk all the time about 4 years. All right, like now we're getting down to 3.5 years, because in May of 2029, when all of these kids are out of school and off to college, or 18 years old and grown and doing their own thing, my wife and I are retiring from our jobs, and I'm packing up and moving back home to the farm. And all of my buddies are ready for me to come home. Like, we're going to start hanging out and doing stuff together again. And we can talk about it and be excited about it from now until then. But when that time comes, it's going to be like the good old days, except that, we might have to pop a couple antacids before we go out drinking for the night or something. Go make friends. It's not hard. You just have to do it. And don't trauma dump on a woman. Jesus, that's the worst fucking idea you could ever have. Don't be stupid. Male friends are good. And be a good male role model. Make friends so you can show your sons how to make friends. That might be the most important thing. We can't have generations continuing to grow up thinking that masculinity is toxic and that being dudes with each other is somehow like a bad thing. That's how we make friends. Do it. Embrace it. Be it. That'll do it for this one. Be back to talk about making America procreate again. Yes. Let's start pumping out them kids so we can teach them how to be toxically masculine and fix this fucking country. That's up next. Later.